We are joined finally here tonight by United Australia Party Senator Ralph Babet. Ralph, welcome to Spectator TV.
G'day, Ellie. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Like always, I'm glad to be here, and I'm not going to start your show until I do one little thing first. Just bear with me out there, all the viewers and everyone out there that's watching, all the broadcasting guys. But happy birthday, President Trump. The day that we're recording this is the day of the president's birthday. I have a glass here, ready for the leftist tears. Fill up my cup. Here we go. A drink, a non-alcoholic apple juice for President Trump. Here we go. Happy birthday, President Trump. By the grace of God, you will be the president once more.
Well, indeed, happy birthday, President Trump, and that was very well done. And look, before we get into some other questions, I've got a little text here from you saying, ask me about excess deaths. So, Ralph, what's going on? Very suspicious.
So, look, yesterday, many of your viewers might know this, but we had our excess deaths inquiry in Canberra. So a bit of background for everyone that's been living under the biggest rock known to man. Over the last few years, tens of thousands of our fellow Aussies have died. In 2022, we had the highest excess mortality since World War II, and we know for a fact it's not all COVID. So I worked very hard. My team and I worked very hard since the very first day I was elected to be in that big house on the hill, the People's House. And we finally managed to get an inquiry up into excess mortality. It was sent to a committee. Now that committee is chaired by the Greens. There are 2 Labor on there, and there are 3 Liberals on there as well. So 1 Greens, 2 Labor, and 3 Linos, Liberals in name only. We only had 1 public hearing. The committee wouldn't give us more than 1 public hearing. We wanted more public hearings. Of course, why wouldn't we want more public hearings? They've given 5 public hearings, so in basically every capital city, for, get this quote, issues related to menopause and perimenopause. But to excess deaths, 1 public hearing. So, okay, I thought, you know what, I'll take what I can get. Of course, I'm not going to say no. 1 is better than none, right? The majority of the witnesses that were called to give evidence were either government agencies or government-funded agencies or agencies that had something to do with government. Only 45 minutes of our entire day of testimony was given to independent subject matter experts, which was AMPS and COVERS. And if I'm being honest, they made the witnesses from the government seem, well, the government and the government-affiliated agency seem pretty silly. But we did discover some interesting things. I'll tell you what they are. We had a data analyst come in, and he revealed in his data that to show that in Queensland, excess deaths began to rise even though there was no community transmission of COVID at the time. We learned, and this is a big one, that in the Pfizer vaccine trials, there were more deaths in the vaccinated group than the placebo group. Do you think if people knew that more vaccinated people died, they would have had these vaccines? I don't think so. And another positive thing that did emerge is that witnesses and senators acknowledged the reality of vaccine injury, but they still refused to adequately compensate the individuals that were harmed and to properly investigate. So in my opinion, just my personal opinion, yesterday was a first step. We need more inquiries. I'm going to keep pushing, but I just had to talk about it so that people out there know what happened in Canberra yesterday. We need more investigation. We need, more eyes on this. People need to get justice.
Oh, and look, everyone, thanks you for your hard work. It's going to be a long, slow struggle with this topic, I fear. And look, Ralph, I try to give opposition leader Peter Dutton at least some benefit of the doubt when it comes to technology, because his generation is not always on top of the nuances of some of the newer developments. But he made 2 huge mistakes this week, and in my opinion, they're unforgivable mistakes. The first was that he gave his unrestrained praise for the E-Safety Commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant, and then, to prove that this wasn't some kind of accident, he fronted up to a breakfast show yesterday and pledged that within 100 days of him being elected, something which isn't going to happen, he would ban children under 16 from accessing social media. And in order to do that, he was going to use facial recognition, that is your biometric data, to enforce it. Now, in order to use that data, they will have to link it back to, digital ID from the government. There's no other way around that. So are you as angry as I am? What are your thoughts on this revelation?
Alexandra, I'm not surprised at all. Dutton, look, I think Dutton at heart, he's a true conservative. I really do think that. But here's the problem with Dutton. He's been in that swamp for so long, and he's surrounded by so many of these deep state actors all around him. And people often ask, what is the deep state? Well, the deep state is it's the bureaucrats, the people that will always be there, and it doesn't matter who has the big office in Parliament House. They're always around. At the end of the day, Dutton is a cop, and of course he's going to act like a cop. When you vote for a cop, what are you going to get? You're going to get a police state. That's what you're going to get. Now,
I started that line. That was my line. Thank you for repeating it.
You?
Very well done. Yes, it was.
Was that you? Well, anyway, somebody told that to me today, and I thought, you know what? That is so true. That's exactly what you get. Now, Dutton, you know what he does? He sees a problem, and like all politicians, he thinks that the government is the solution to that problem. Now, it was Peter Malinowskis, the Labor Party premier from South Australia, that first floated the idea of banning social media for children. So Dutton grabbed the idea, and then he says, well, Peter Malinowskis, you said 14. I raise you 14, and I'll say we're going to ban social media for everyone under 16. You know, it's very convenient, like you mentioned, the timing with the digital ID bill passing. How convenient is that? This goes back to what I mentioned before about the deep state, the people that have the ears of your elected representatives. People out there think, they really believe this. I vote for this person, I get this person into power. You don't get that person when you vote for that person. You get the bureaucrats that are around that person, that reports to that person, and that has their ears. You get focus group politics. That's what you get when you vote for these big party people. You're not going to get a guy like me that's going to take accountability, take responsibility, and tell those bureaucrats to take a hike. They're not going to do that. They play the game because they care more about their job and their position of influence within Parliament House, within the bureaucracy, within the machine, than what they care about doing the right thing. I couldn't give a damn if I don't get re-elected tomorrow. In fact, you know what? It'd probably be a blessing if I don't get re-elected. And at this stage, you know what? It really would be, because I'm not a career politician. I didn't do this job because it's what I've always wanted to do. I never wanted to lord over my fellow Australian. I never wanted to lord over my community, my state, my country, my countrymen. I just wanted to be left the heck alone from big government. I'm sick of big government. Dutton is a big government agent. He's an actor in the machine. He's a part of the system. And this is the problem. Now, I don't mind the guy, and I'm sure on a personal level, he's not a bad person, but he has to be able to have the kahunas, the testicular fortitude to say to these deep state agents, these bureaucrats, no, I don't agree. No, I'm not going to have, more big government ruling over the lives of individuals. I don't agree with that. What I want to see happen is I want to see parents take responsibility for their children. You know what, Labor Party? You know what, Liberal Party? You're not my mum. You're not my dad. You're not the daddy. It's not a govern me harder daddy situation like Jared Rennick once said in the Senate. Leave us, men and women, to live our lives without overbearing control from you guys. Why don't you come out and say, okay, we all agree social media is a problem for children. Why don't you come out and say, parents, step up. Parents, here are some tools. Parents, this is what you can do for your children. Parents, you pay for the phone. You know your kids. It's not up to the government to do any of these things. I am sick to death. I don't know if you can tell, but I am sick to death of big government. And as long as you keep voting for Labor or Liberal, nothing will change. This country is heading towards a dark place. Before you know it, we're going to be a broke dumpster fire of a country. We're going to end up like Argentina. We're going to end up in a place where you're going to be eating your pets because these big government people, they are destroying our country. They're ramping up debt. They're bringing in all these laws where private enterprise can't even do business anymore. I'm sick of it. Like Pauline Hanson says, I've had a gutful and we need to have change. You need to make different choices at the next election.
I love that your rant is absolutely perfect and on point. Look, I grew up with social media. I probably started when I was about 12 or 13. And for me, it was a huge part of my childhood growing up. It's where I learned how to write. I had all these friends outside of my school system, which my school system was designed for sports people. I wasn't a sports person. I was a writer and an artist. So it was a hub of creativity. It was a positive influence on so many people, particularly kids that you call geeks. Online engagement is very important for them because they don't fit into the school system. And so social media is not toxic in of itself. What's toxic is what kids are learning at school. It's the lack of parenting they're receiving. There's no discipline. They're being pumped full of all this identity politics. They're being confused about their gender. They're being told they're going to die in 10 years by the government. In fact, the government's the source of so many problems with children. And we are just seeing that reflected in social media. Social media is not causing that problem for kids. And so Dutton's idea that erecting a dystopian big state over all of us is going to somehow save children is wrong, and it's going to leave us with social media, the last public open forum that we have available to us, controlled and dictated by the government, which if he can't understand that is extremely dangerous and that the left, if not the Liberal Party, will abuse that right, then I don't know what to say to Dutton, because if you have to be smart enough to see where your policies are going to go, otherwise you should not be a leader. And besides, I asked my mum, what would you do if social media was ruining my life, if I was bullying people? She said, I would take your phone off you and enroll you in a 3-week camp in the bush. I'm like, okay. So our parents knew how to parent. But look, let's have a quick chat about your Specky article this week. You decided to touch on a taboo topic, and that is the multicultural dream versus the multiracial dream of Australia. Now, why is this so important? What point were you trying to make in this article?
Look, we're seeing our country be ripped apart right now. We really are. And if you can't see it yet, then you're a little bit blind. Maybe you should go to Specsavers, and get some new glasses. Multiculturalism doesn't work. It is a failed experiment, and the only thing that's happened with multiculturalism is that we've diluted what is great about Western culture, and we've introduced a fracture into the social cohesion in our nation, and it is only going to get worse. Multiculturalism does not produce a unified country. It is a fast track to what I like to call parallel societies and disunity. Now, people are going to call me a racist, and you know what? Screw you. I'm a brown guy. I'm telling you this, and I'm an immigrant. There's a difference between a multicultural society and a multi-race or a multi-ethnic society. I'm not saying that multi-race is bad. Multi-race is a good thing, but multiculture is not a good thing. And all of this can be traced back to the Whitlam Labor government, which adopted multiculturalism as its official policy. So it admitted people from cultures that are at odds with our culture. And they promised these people that they'd be free to persist with their counterculture once they got to Australia. That's what they did. I am a proponent of people coming to Australia from cultural backgrounds that are already similar to the people that are already here. And that's what we used to have. We used to have migrants come to Australia that shared our Judeo-Christian values. And say it again for the trolls on X. They came here with shared values, Judeo-Christian values, and broadly believed the same things. We now have migrants arriving to our shores who not only do not share our values, but who in some cases, many cases, and I'm not going to name groups here, but in many cases actively oppose Australian values. How can we have a country when there are people who live here right now who oppose the values that we have here already? I think it's absolute garbage. I think we need to talk about it. I think it needs to be part of a national conversation. And at the end of the day, who does this benefit? All of this is championed by the progressive left, because the progressive left, let's be honest, these people hate Western culture. They're borderline idiots. They want to tear down everything that made the West great so that it can be rebuilt in their false utopian vision of whatever they have in their mind that day. And it's, what they're doing really plays really well into the hands of the globalists. So the globalists, what they want is they want a global world, global health system, global financial system, global laws, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. And the only way they can get that is by destroying the nation state. So as you can see throughout Europe right now, it's happening in the United States as well. Look what's happening in England and France. They are destroying social cohesion on purpose, fracturing the West, and then eventually they're going to come over the top and they're going to say, okay, you don't have a national identity now. You don't have a national culture now. There's nothing holding you together that used to hold you together like you used to have, back in the 2000s. So now you're part of this new global framework, this new global system. They have now power over individual nation states. That's what they want. And I will not let them do it. I will not let them destroy Australia. I will not let them take away our Judeo-Christian values. I'm going to protect those until the day that I'm 6 feet down. And you know what? Other politicians need to start talking about this. Stop worrying about, your cushy job in Canberra and start caring about Australia and the Australian people. That's why they voted you in there in the first place. Stop doing focus group politics. Stop listening to the lefties all around you in the bureaucracy in Canberra and just do what's right for this gosh darn country, damn it.
Yes, well, globalism is basically the old school James Bond villain thing where they want to rule the world. So to rule the world, you have to destroy all the nation states first. That's how you go about it, and that's what this is really about at the end of the day. But on that fabulous rant from you, Ralph, that is all we have time for. Thank you for joining us here on Spectator TV.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that's all from us today. We will catch you next week.